In a quiet, sun-drenched village nestled between green hills and whispering forests, lived a girl named Cynthia. She was the daughter of Mama John and Papa John, humble farmers who loved her dearly. From the day she was born, the villagers whispered about her beauty. Her skin glowed like fresh palm oil under the sun. Her eyes sparkled like moonlight over a calm river, and her smile could silence quarrels. Wherever Cynthia went, heads turned. Children paused their games, elders blessed her in passing, and suitors came from far and wide just to catch a glimpse. But behind that angelic face was something far less heavenly, a heart swelling with pride. Cynthia knew she was beautiful, and she wore that knowledge like a crown, believing it placed her above everyone else. She saw herself not as a daughter of farmers, but as someone born for palaces. Little did she know, her beauty would soon become her burden, and her pride, her curse.
As Cynthia grew older, so did her obsession with herself. She would spend hours gazing into a bowl of still water, admiring her reflection like it was a painting meant only for royalty. Her mother, Mama John, often called out to her to help with chores, pounding yam, fetching water, sweeping the compound, but Cynthia would scoff and flip her hair with disdain. Me? Do farm work. With these hands, she would say, stretching her delicate fingers. I wasn't born to sweat like a goat. I was born for silk and gold. The village girls, who once played with her under the mango trees, became objects of her mockery. One by one, they married humble but kind men, farmers, carpenters, and hunters. Cynthia laughed at them behind their backs. Why marry a man who smells like firewood, she'd say, when I am destined to marry a king. A real king, with servants and gold. She started to isolate herself from everyone, her friends, her family, even the children who used to follow her like butterflies. To her, they were beneath her beauty, unworthy of her presence. But pride, like smoke, always finds its way to the sky. And soon, Cynthia's arrogance would draw the attention of someone whose words carried more power than beauty ever could. One bright market day, the village square was buzzing with life, traders shouting prices, mothers haggling, and children darting between stalls. Cynthia, dressed in her finest wrapper with beads in her hair, walked through the crowd like a queen among peasants. Her hips swayed, her nose raised slightly, and her eyes scanned people like they were unworthy insects beneath her feet. As she strutted past the herb store, she caught sight of Mama Michael, the oldest and most respected woman in the village. Bent with age but sharp in spirit, Mama Michael was known for her wisdom, her healing hands, and her connection to the ancestors. She extended a gnarled hand to greet Cynthia. Cynthia, my daughter, she said warmly, help me carry this basket, my back is not what it used to be. But Cynthia sneered. Why would I, a girl of beauty and grace, touch your filthy load? I am not your servant, old woman. A hush fell over the market. The crowd turned. Even the wind seemed to pause. Mama Michael's kind face darkened, her eyes narrowing like they come before a storm. You wear your beauty like a weapon, she said slowly. But remember, child, even flowers rot in the sun if they have no roots. Cynthia rolled her eyes and walked off, but Mama Michael's voice thundered across the market. I curse you, Cynthia, daughter of pride. May your beauty melt like morning dew, and your pride become your prison. You shall not regain your looks until you have lived with the ugliest man on earth, not for his face, but for his soul. A sharp breeze swept through the market. Cynthia stumbled. Her skin prickled. And in moments, gasps echoed around her. Her smooth skin now blistered. Her eyes dulled. Her hair lost its shine. Her beauty was gone, melted away like wax under fire. Cynthia screamed, covering her face as the crowd stepped back in horror. She had become a stranger to herself, unrecognizable and alone. Days passed. Then weeks. Cynthia locked herself inside her parents' hut, refusing to face the world. Her mirror was broken, her clothes untouched. The once proud beauty had become a shadow of herself, curled in a dark corner, hiding from the eyes that once adored her. Mama John wept at the door each night, her hands pressed against the wood. "My daughter, come out. We will find help." But Cynthia remained silent, broken not just in appearance, but in spirit. Then, one rainy afternoon, as thunder cracked in the sky, a mysterious traveler arrived at the village. His cloak was soaked, his face partly hidden by a hood, but his voice carried a quiet power. He asked for Cynthia by name. Sitting in the dark, she heard his footsteps draw closer until he stood at her doorway. "The curse upon you," he said, "was not meant to destroy you, but to rebuild you." Mama Michael's words still echo. Your beauty will return only when you have lived with the ugliest man on earth and loved him not for his body, but for his soul. Cynthia's eyes filled with tears. "How do I find such a man?" she whispered. "He will find you," the traveler said. "But the question is, will you recognize his soul through your pain?" Then he turned and vanished into the storm, as if he were a spirit sent only to deliver that one message. The next morning, for the first time in weeks, Cynthia stepped outside. Her face was still disfigured, but something had shifted inside her. Her pride had cracked, and from those cracks, a quiet strength began to bloom. Just as the traveler had foretold, not long after Cynthia began to face the world again, a man appeared at the edge of the village. His name was Judas, and he was, by all accounts, the most repulsive man anyone had ever seen. His face was twisted by deep scars, his teeth were yellowed and crooked, and his breath reeked like rotten meat. He walked with a limp, grunted when he spoke, and laughed like a donkey in pain. Children screamed at the sight of him. Even the dogs barked in fear. But Judas didn't care. He stood before Papa John's hut, pounded his staff on the ground, and said loudly, "I have come to marry Cynthia." A wave of disgust swept through the village. People whispered, laughed, and gasped. Some thought it was a cruel joke. Others believed it was fate itself knocking. Inside, Cynthia's heart sank. She had dreamed of kings and palaces, not this. But as she stared at Judas from the shadows, she heard Mama Michael's words echo in her mind, not for his body, but for his soul. She knew this was it. The test. The path. The cursor's key. So, with trembling hands and a heavy heart, she stepped forward and nodded. "I will marry you," she said. The village erupted in disbelief. Some called her mad. Others pitied her. Her wedding dress was plain, her face veiled not by choice, but by shame. The ceremony was quiet. No drums. No dancing. No laughter. Just the low grumble of thunder in the distance and the sound of Judas dragging his cane across the earth. And so began her life with the man who was meant to break her or transform her. Living with Judas was like walking barefoot over thorns each day. He was everything Cynthia feared, harsh, rude, and unkind. He demanded food at odd hours, threw insults like stones, and mocked her for every mistake. He never once thanked her, never smiled, and never offered comfort. His hut was dark, damp, and smelled of old wounds and bitter herbs. Every corner reminded her of the life she'd lost, the silks she once wore, the mirror she once adored, the dreams she once carried. Yet, Cynthia said nothing. Each morning, she rose before him and cleaned their tiny home. She cooked with care, fetched water from the well, and even washed his torn clothes by hand. When he cursed, she responded with silence. When he complained, she listened. And slowly, something began to change, not in Judas, but in Cynthia. She started helping other villagers, quietly and without pride. She gathered firewood for old women, sang lullabies to crying babies, and shared food with beggars. The same hands that once refused to sweep now healed, fed, and carried. At night, Judas would watch her as she sat beneath the moonlight, whispering prayers not for her beauty to return, but for her heart to remain kind. The villagers began to whisper again, not about her looks, but about her spirit. The girl who once mocked them now served them. And even though Judas remained cold and cruel, Cynthia's heart grew warmer. She no longer looked into mirrors, she looked into people. And what she saw humbled her. Her curse hadn't just taken her beauty, it had forced her to find something deeper. One night, as the village slept under a silver sky, Cynthia lay curled on a straw mat beside the dying fire. Her body ached. Her spirit was tired. But her heart, oh, her heart was at peace. She had lived through shame, swallowed pride, endured cruelty, and given love without ever receiving it in return. That night, Mama Michael came to her, not in body, but in a dream. Dressed in white, glowing softly, her face was calm and full of grace. "You have done well, child," she whispered, her voice like rustling leaves. "You have learned the lesson no mirror could teach. Your beauty was never in your face, it was waiting in your soul." Cynthia felt a warmth spread through her chest. When you chose kindness over resentment, when you embraced humility over vanity, the curse began to break, Mama Michael continued. And now, it is lifted. Not because of how you look, but because of who you've become. Cynthia jolted awake. The room felt different, brighter. She rushed to the small pot of water outside, leaned over, and gasped. Her face was restored. Not just restored, radiant. Her skin glowed, her eyes sparkled, and her hair shimmered in the morning sun. But this time, she didn't smile for herself. She smiled for the journey, the brokenness, the pain, the growth. Her beauty was back, yes. But it no longer defined her. She had been broken down and reborn. At dawn, Cynthia walked away from Judas' hut, not with anger, but with gratitude. She stood before him one last time. His face, still cruel and disfigured, showed no emotion. But Cynthia bowed her head and said, "Thank you for being the fire that shaped me." He said nothing. But deep in his eyes, for just a second, there was a flicker of respect, or perhaps regret. Word spread quickly. The villagers, stunned by her transformation, not just in face, but in grace, welcomed her back with open arms. But Cynthia didn't return to her old ways. She didn't parade her beauty. She didn't mock or boast. She spent her days teaching young girls that kindness was stronger than charm, and that the heart holds more power than the mirror. Then came the prince. A man of both nobility and humility, who had heard of a young woman whose heart had bloomed from ashes. He didn't come for beauty, he came for the woman who had walked through fire and come out gold. And when he met her, he fell, not for her face, but for her story. They married beneath the same mango trees where she once mocked her friends, but this time, there was no pride, only joy. And Cynthia, she never forgot. She wore her past like a necklace, close to her heart, never hidden, never denied. Moral of the story. Pride may lift you up, but it is humility that keeps you standing. Beauty fades. But the kindness you plant in others, that grows forever. Never mock the humble, for their strength is quiet, but mighty. And remember, the real mirror is not the one on the wall, it's the one in your heart.